On the battlefield, the soldiers of Natra were in a rather standard formation. From a bird's-eye view, you'd see them in a rectangular shape spread out before the Mardan army. Their opponents had their own battle arrangement. Their men were concentrated in the middle of its formation, unlike their opponents' uniform structure. The Mardan were banking on breaking through the opposing center line, then turning around and destroying them in one go. Humans are particularly vulnerable to attacks from the side and from behind. This principle can be applied to an entire army, too, meaning assaults from the rear are extremely dangerous. To counter these attacks, the troops of Natra needed to focus on destroying the enemy soldiers in the center. That said, they were going against 7,000 men with an army of 6,000. If strength was in numbers, it was obvious which one had the advantage. But war isn't determined by that alone. After all, victory depended on many unquantifiable factors, like skill. General Urgio, we have a request for backup from the left flank. Loshina unit. A message has come in. The Sansa unit has been annihilated. The Tali unit is heading there as backup. General, the right flank struggling as well. News from the battlefield hit them as one report after another came in. All reported the dire condition of the Mardan army. No way. Surprise spilled from Urgio's lips in spite of himself. But his words reflected the collective bewilderment of the Mardan officers. How the hell are their soldiers this strong? Wait, Mardan is weak as shit. While Urgio and his staff were stiff with shock, Wayne sat on the opposite side of the battlefield in disbelief. What is this, huh? Why are we beating the crap out of them? His words were no lie. The battle was completely one-sided. The Natra and Mardan men met in a zealous clash, but it was immediately evident which one was stronger, even before the impact of their initial collision died down. The Mardan troops brandished their weapons, single-mindedly focused on taking down the enemy in front of them, but their attacks weren't coordinated or collaborative. It was every man for himself. But Wayne's soldiers were different. When Mardan troops rushed in, some defenders raised their shields to stop the enemy assault, freeing up nearby allies to beat the attack back. On the other hand, when the enemy closed up their formation in self-defense, the Natra soldiers coordinated to break through it, all the while maintaining formation. Instead of fighting individually, the Natra army moved as one, with each soldier supporting the men beside him. Though fewer in numbers, it was painfully clear that Natra had the overwhelming superior force. "What's the matter, Your Highness?" Hegel questioned, noticing his confusion. I was surprised. We're better than I thought. Not that he doubted they win, but this was well beyond his expectations. Did you know it'd turn out like this, Hegel? Why, yes, after all. We all invent and refine things to fulfill a need. To illustrate my point, the Empire has a long history of battles. This is one of the reasons they're able to train soldiers so effectively. To be honest, even I was impressed when I observed their methods. Once we learned their ways, I knew we'd easily defeat a small country with nothing but minor skirmishes under its belt. He broke into a wry smile, but I'm a little surprised by how weak they are. It's possible this is a setup, but I really don't believe that to be the case by this point. But, Your Highness. Yeah, I haven't forgotten. We'll just have to whittle them down while we still can. Just then, a huge shout erupted from the right flank. After halting the Mardan advance, Natra soldiers had gone on the attack. Looks like Raklam has made his move. Roars and screams blared out of the crowd at the edge of the right flank. Through strewn bodies and followed by the metallic scent of fresh blood, Raklam rode on his horse. Under his command, the officers spat out orders. Don't break formation. Move together as a unit. Shore up the defense. Dispatch reinforcements. The Mardan are getting cold feet. Force them back. The soldiers at the front lines followed their instructions with a keen awareness that this battle was going in their favor, just as Wayne had observed. They were fighting well, and it was already affecting the enemy. In fact, the Natra soldiers were quickly overwhelming the enemy. Months of harsh training under the Empire's tutelage were coming to fruition, and as the battle wore on, the men's morale continued to rise, thanks to Raklam's commanding officers giving out precise orders and the soldiers speedily carrying them out. They were pushing back Marden more and more. Right now, their army was in the zone. They no longer felt any doubt. This was why the commanding officers made a proposal to their leader, Racklam. Commander Racklam, sir, this is our chance. Let's launch a full-on attack. At this point, we can smash through the defenses and take them from the rear. Commander Racklam. Suggestion after suggestion whizzed past the captain's ears, but his eyes were cast downward. He was unresponsive. The commanders looked at one another. This was different from the Racklam they knew, the one who matter-of-factly issued orders during their drills. They'd never seen this side of him. One of them nervously reached out, wondering what was wrong. Captain? As he gingerly touched his shoulder. Racklam's head snapped up. The commander stiffened in an instant. Racklam had been crying. Grown men shouldn't cry. But tears poured from his eyes, heedless of his subordinate's gaze. Commander Racklam, what in the world? Ooh, blared Racklam in an agonizing, throaty voice. His inhuman cry startled the Natra and Marden troops in the right flank, causing them to shake involuntarily and stop their movements. They all turned toward the direction of the noise. Racklam, I'm sad, he admitted with all eyes on him. He moved his horse forward. This is the very first battle of the glorious Prince Regent Wayne Salema Arbalest. His first step of many on a brilliant journey, and yet, the tears transformed into unbridled fury blazing out of his shy eyes. The Marden soldiers shivered at the sight of his rage. What worthless trash. All we're doing is clearing out weeds. It shouldn't be like this. We should be offering up the blood of strong, cunning, renowned prey worthy of His Highness's splendor. Racklam suddenly dropped down from his horse and stomped across to the enemy, sauntering as though walking through an empty field. He finally came to a halt in front of the Marden soldiers, who were all frozen in place. This was an unusual sight, an enemy leader standing before them alone, crying. It left them so dumbfounded they didn't dare move. Your Highness, oh please forgive your retainer for his unworthiness. Both of Racklam's long arms lashed out, flashing through the air like whips. With a loud pop, a soldier's face split into two, and his body was callously tossed in the air. At the very least, I vow to create a mountain of their dirty corpses. With that, everyone came to their senses. Kill him! Follow Commander Racklam. Racklam swung his gauntleted fist as the Marden soldiers swarmed him. He's pushing back the enemy. Their defeat is close at hand. Wayne nodded in satisfaction at the messenger's report. He goes a little wild sometimes, but it looks like it'll be okay this time. Good, good. By hand-picking Racklam as one of his officers, Wayne had made the man unimaginably loyal to him. In truth, Wayne had been a little concerned as to whether that might make things worse in a real battle, but considering how things were going, he figured everything would work out. What the hell was he thinking, getting off his horse and bashing people himself? He'd come to think in hindsight over the coming days as detailed reports filtered in. Not that he had any way of knowing that at the moment. But this is bad. One after another, messengers reported that they were at a major advantage. However, clouds of doubt continued to swirl inside his conscience. Marden should just hurry up and cut their losses. If they don't, as Wayne fretted, Hagel's eyes glinted shrewdly. Your Highness, our threads have begun to fray, he reported. Gah. Wayne narrowly escaped saying that out loud, hurriedly swallowing it down. You're sure? Yes. The battle conditions are changing again. Please prepare yourself, Your Highness. Wayne gave a short nod as he looked at the battlefield and remembered what Hegel had said before they had set off for battle. Wait, our soldiers won't last long? That's correct, Hegel had said frankly at the War Council meeting. By training hard, our soldiers are almost unrecognizable in strength and likely to dominate at the start of battle, but they'll wear out after 90 minutes. Why? Because most of them are unfamiliar with war. Hegel had explained. The cold air, spilled blood and sinew, uncontrollable bloodlust. In battle, the heart gets worn down faster than the body. When that happens, your vision narrows and your ears start to close. This makes soldiers slow to come to the aid of their comrades or obey new orders. You could say it reduces the strength of our army by half. even after all their training? No amount of training can change this, he had said, nodding. There are just too many things on the battlefield. You cannot know unless you experience them yourself. So Marden has the upper hand in this regard. Their experience might consist mostly of smaller skirmishes, but they've experienced war before. Yes, unless their leader's exceedingly foolish, he won't overlook this opportunity. That means the deciding factor is how much you can whittle down their army until then. Let's hope he's the dumbest, most unaware leader possible, Wayne had wished with a sigh. But of course his wish didn't come true. The enemy is moving with less force. Almost immediately, Urgio sensed this sudden change. General, I know. Give me 10 seconds. At the start of battle, they had 7,000 of their men fighting against 6,000 enemy soldiers. But despite their early advantage, they currently stood 5,000 to 5,000, an even playing field. With the Natra army's movement slowing down, there was a chance to make a comeback, but it was useless. That alone wouldn't be enough. If the Marden army couldn't beat them before sunset, their opponents would start to prepare for their next move, rest and recuperate, meaning Urgio's men would have to fight them all over again. This is our chance. Now or never. We'll have to. This is bad. On the other side, Wayne's patience was wearing thin. The reason wasn't just the deteriorating condition of his army. It was because he'd pretty much hand-fed the Marden a way to turn things around. It'd take time to prepare a counterattack. If the enemy started to move in before then, I'm begging you not to notice. Wayne sent a prayer to the heavens above. But his prayers were in vain, for Urgio surveyed the battlefield and quickly spotted the epicenter of this change. Are the front lines wearing thin? Though the Natra army was holding out and trying to keep formation, their center was weakening. Why? The answers quickly sprang to mind. To destroy the left flank of Urgio's army, Natra had shifted soldiers from the middle of their formation to their right. Unfortunately, their manpower slowly petered out before they could follow through on the attack, and they'd encountered a stalemate and a thin formation. An image of victory flashed in front of him. They could do it. This is the moment of truth, he screamed in his mind. Tell the leaders on both flanks to keep whatever enemy troops they're fighting occupied. Get the main forces back in formation, he blared. We attack as soon as everything's ready. Yes, sir. What's the target? Isn't it obvious? Urgio looked into the distance as his eyes gleamed. The head of their dear leader. Ugh, crap. Hold on. We're not freaking ready yet. The center of the Marden formation had unleashed an attack on his men. The single blow targeted their cavalry, taking a huge bite out of their weakened army. But the Marden forces couldn't be stopped. They pressed through the gap, worming their way through. There were no soldiers left to defend this opening on Natra's side, and with men fervently fighting on both flanks, Wayne couldn't ask his troops to return to their original positions and block the new enemy advance. Their opponents would burst through their main defense. There were only about 1,000 soldiers pushing through. When that happened, the only ones available for defense would be Wayne, Hagel, and 100 other guards on top of the hill. Your Highness, we must pull back quickly. I know. There was only one path. Under Hagel's order, Wayne and the others hastily made their retreat. General, he is escaping from their main headquarters. How pathetic. He should just take the loss like a man. But there aren't many of them up here with him. Go after him on horseback. Have the infantry hold their main forces in place. Yes, sir. Urgio divided his infantry. He set out after Wayne with a cavalry detachment 400 strong. They launched upward toward the top of the hill, and skidded to a halt near their main headquarters, seizing a few craggy mountains behind the hill. Hiding in one of the shadows was the prince's personal guard, so you planned to run and hide. Pity. Your heavy armor backfired on you, he barked. The guards in the enemy's headquarters were nearly all foot soldiers equipped with spears and shields. They couldn't outrun horses. Get them before they hide in the cliffs. Let's go. He issued the order and descended the hill with his cavalry. As they closed the distance between them, the guards stopped moving and turned around in what seemed like resignation, forming a line of defense to face the coming attack. But it was much too thin. They could be broken in a single charge. Urgil raised a war cry, certain of victory. "I told you not to come," cursed Wayne in a low voice no one could hear. Then he issued a command. "All right, let's wrap this up." Nanim Raleigh ordered the soldiers. "Archers, loose!" From the top of the cliffs, a sea of arrows rained down on the Marden army.